So we're live on Facebook. So what we're talking with Alex Buriak of Jet Lending today. Jet Lending does hard money lending. So Alex, just really kind of give us some overview, high level basics for someone that might not know what hard money lending is. I'll let you go.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. And thanks for having me. I love all the shows and stuff like that. So Jet Lending and myself appreciate being on.
Yeah.
So hard money, basically, hard money got its name because we lend to the hard asset. So, in the state of Texas, we're true loan to value. You'll see a lot of people that will advertise like loan to value, but it's really loan to cost. But in Texas, we're loan to value. That means that I'm going to lend for investment properties only. And I'm going to lend to what it would be worth. So if you had a property worth $100,000 fixed up, I could lend up to 70% of that. So I'd lend $70,000 for the total loan. But let's say you're an investor or an agent saying, hey, my borrower or myself needs like 20 grand in repairs to make this thing worth 100,000. Well, I'll take $20,000 out of the 70 and I'll hold it in an escrow account to get reimbursed on like repair draws. So I'd close at 50,000. So if you bought it for 40,000, I'd have $10,000 to roll in all your closing costs. So those are your $0 out of pocket deals. If you bought it for 60 grand, you're coming out of pocket $10,000 to meet the difference, plus anything, plus your closing costs. So it all depends on how you buy the property, if you're coming out of pocket or not. And we close 3 days from clear to closing title and appraisal report in. So usually that's about 7 days. So this is not a 30 to 60 day closing. These are distressed assets or non-distressed, but just investment, non-owner occupied.
So just to sum it up, maybe say it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
You loan to, so hard money is investors only. It cannot be an owner occupied purchase. It's only for an investment purchase. Is that right?
Correct.
And it's basically a vehicle for anyone who's buying an investment property to borrow. Really, you can get in if you're picking a property that's gonna have a good markup in value once you rehab it. You're buying something that's undervalued, either foreclosure or however you're getting it.
Mm-hmm.
You can essentially get in maybe for 100%, where you can borrow the whole cost of the property plus closing costs plus money to repair it, as long as you're under that 70% loan to value.
Yeah, so if you're a good rule of thumb, if you wanted to be $0 out of pocket, your purchase price would be 65% of the after repaired value minus your repair cost would be your top purchase price, and we'd cover everything. That's title fees and all that kind of stuff.
So there's a lot of small 1 and 2 time early on investors that don't have the bandwidth to have a line of credit and pay cash themselves. They're just starting. So what do you use to make sure that they're going to pay you back? Like, how do you take someone that might not have a ton of income, or what do you look at to qualify on these loans?
So what I'll look for is to make sure that they're safe in the deal. So what I'll make sure that they have access to, whether that's personal or business checking accounts, IRA or self-directed IRA, well, not really self-directed, but IRA or 401k accounts that they can draw from, or securities accounts that they're actually going to draw from before the closing, credit lines, cash on hand, anything that you have access to. I'm going to make sure that you have at least 6 months of interest payments in reserves, that you have at least a third of the repairs in reserves. And if you are coming out of pocket at closing, I'm going to make sure you have that somewhere in those accounts. So I know if I close this loan, you can make your payments. You can start the repairs. If you're coming out of pocket 10 grand at closing, you have that. So I don't hold those in escrow. I just want to see that you have it access to. And that's what I look for.
So an example of reserves for someone that may not understand that is, let's say that your interest only payment on the money that you're borrowing is $1,000 a month, let's say. You would want 6 months reserves, meaning 6 times $1,000. So $6,000 somewhere to show that's in savings somewhere to show that I have the money to pay you for 6 months.
Correct.
And then what you said, one other thing for the reserves, 3 months of something. What was that?
No, so 1/3 of the renovation. So let's say you had a $30,000 renovation. I'm going to make sure that you have at least 10,000 of it in your accounts because I'm going to be reimbursing you in draws, but I want to make sure you can keep the project moving as we're reimbursing.
Got it. Yes, you want to make sure that I can pay my contractors out of pocket and then turn in the draws. Because one thing I think people, I understand construction really well on the flip side. So you guys reimburse for the draws after the work has already been done, not prior, right?
Correct.
So they do some plumbing and maybe some framing and some sheetrock and whatever it is. And then they come to you and they say, hey, Alex, I just did $7,500 worth of work. Here's my receipts, or here's what I did. Do y'all send an inspector out to make sure that that stuff was actually done? Do you go out to the property?
We do. And we actually even provide that inspector before you start any work. So if you wanted to go over any kind of plans or issues, scheduling, anything like that, you have full access to our contract inspectors. So you can really plan, because nothing's more frustrating to a borrower when you request a draw and it's like a week later or 10 days later. We reimburse fairly quickly. So so we give them that access as well. But the only thing that we won't reimburse for on the first draw is just demo. It has to be an additional repair, so it has to improve value. Though you may have a property that you're like, hey, listen, demo improved value. No, we have to, like, demo, and then let's say you did like sheetrock or something like that, and we can make a draw on that. So that's our only stipulation on the first draw, that it can't be, you can't just gut the property.
So you want to know that they have 6 months of payments to pay you, whatever the interest only payment is. And it is interest only. They're not amortizing payments. They're just paying interest only.
Just interest only without any penalties for early payoff.
Yeah, that's awesome. So your average loan, I mean, people are usually getting in and out within 3-4 months. Is that right? Unless there's some unforeseen delay like weather or something.
Yeah, usually, depending on the market too, I'd say like your $700,000 flood houses and stuff like that, they're probably still waiting. So days on market on the value of properties would kind of do that. But on average, people are in our loans about 4 months.
Okay, got it. Now, I hear people say, the first thing they'll say is, oh no, I don't want to pay those high rates of hard money. And I'm like, listen, if the project works, and you've calculated what your potential profit's going to be, who cares? Like if you're paying 8 to 10% interest, is that pretty much what it is? 8 to 10? Is that kind of a gauge?
Well,
what is the rate?
So right now you're looking at anywhere from 9.9 to 13.9% on the loan to value stuff. Your loan to cost stuff, you make it 8 to 10%, but you're putting more money in, which is going to shift some of your profit margins on how many deals you can do. One of the things I always tell people, it's one of the costs of doing business. Hard money is a vehicle, not the vehicle for investment. So it's a way to increase inventory. Like you may have private money people and stuff like that you can work with. I have about $60 million on the street right now. We're not running out of money. We're not going to have an issue like withdrawals and stuff like that. So one of the ways people use us is for the speed of business and for the assurity that your money is there, because everything is collateralized to your property. So if we burn down to the ground, your money's still sitting there.
Got it. So in addition to the interest rate, like what can someone expect for closing costs? Are the closing costs pretty much fixed no matter how much they're borrowing, or?
No, I can kind of show you something if you want.
Yeah. Michelle, Can you have him be able to share screen? Let me just see.
You're the host, but I already did.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, share screen.
All right. So, see and share. All right, you guys can see that Excel sheet?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so if you go over, just to kind of go over some of the, because we like to calculate not just our fees, but projection of all your fees. So when we make an estimate for somebody, let's say the purchase price was, like, let's say we'll do that real basic one. So the purchase price was $50,000, and ARV was 100,000.
ARV is after repair value.
Correct. And then 20,000 on a property like that, you know, your taxes are probably going to be about $3,500. So if I lent 70% of the ARV, holding 20,000 in repairs, I'd lend you 70 grand. I'm closing with 50 at $20,000 in repairs held back. If I did 3 points and 11.9, you're only coming out of pocket $4,705 at closing, because we have a minimum origination fee of $2,500. We pay $375 to our legal docs to prepare docs, so that's a straight through to our attorneys. I'm estimating 1.5% of the loan for title fees, so I'm even trying to project your total HUD number. We have $780 for processing. That covers my pay to my processor, flood certs, and things like that. So that's an all-in type number. And if I have the insurance binder, I'll put your insurance quote in. So let's say the premium was $1,000.
So you just do a binder. You don't do like a full title policy.
Oh, yeah, just we do a title policy with title.
Got it.
So but like, look at these numbers here. So if you bought that cheaper, you're gonna see, look, your closing cost is still $5,705, but you're negative. That means you are coming $0 out of pocket. If you bought it for 60, same deal, you're coming up about 15. So it's all about, the only thing you can ever change in investment real estate is how you bought it. You can't change how much you're going to take to fix it. You can't change how much it's going to be worth after you fix it. Only purchase price, and that dictates your out-of-pocket expenses. So for someone who's saying, well, hard money or even some private monies are too expensive, then I have a deal analyzer that actually shows you profit margins. We even take account utilities and say, if you did this deal, you're projected X. So if you are out of pocket 15 grand, but you netted 40, it doesn't really matter how much things cost. You're still in business. And that's what we get to even our cash buyers. A lot of my cash buyers that understand private and hard money, they'll go buy at the foreclosure sales and the tax auctions, because you can't use a lender for those. So they'll buy them and we'll refinance them out, and then they'll go buy another one. So they're buying 2, 3, 4, 5 properties, where a normal cash buyer, if they had like 150 grand, they're just buying one. If something shifts in the market, their money is tied up into a hard asset. They're no longer liquid. So we're an opportunity to keep you liquid in the market, and nothing saves you in investment real estate like being liquid.
Yeah, I super agree. No, I'm a super proponent, and you know, it's a short-term vehicle to get them to a long-term result. Now, how much percent? So there's 2 options when buying investment property. You either buy it, renovate it, and flip it and sell it right away, or you hold it. And that's where, you know, I'll refinance. You know, you've called me, and I appreciate it, to refinance some of your guys or gals that, you know, they want to hold it long term and they want a real cheaper 30-year fixed rate. But what percent right now in the market are you seeing more buy and flip, or are you seeing more buy and hold?
Buy and hold. That's 6. We used to be a pretty good 50-50 split. I'm seeing more like 60, 70% people actually holding. So what they'll do is they'll use us to repair it, and then they'll go to something like, you know, like Legacy, like your group, and say, listen, refinance me out on these really cheap Fannie Freddie type stuff. Yeah. They have their homestead, they're doing 9, they refinance those 9 into a portfolio, they do it again. There are some people that are working on being bankable, or they became just investors and they're having a hard time getting those types of loans. And then where's a non-QM space? For non-QM means non-qualified mortgage. So there are like type hard money stuff that we have that are 3, 5, 10, and 30-year loans that are for non-qualified mortgages, where you can hold in an LLC and stuff like that as well. So we want to make sure that anybody that's bankable, they call you guys up, they let you, because you guys handle people so well, and really, really help them with their business plan if that's the avenue that they've chosen to go. Because the rates are cheaper. But then there's a non-QM space as well.
Yeah, we saw that go away a little bit right when COVID came out. A lot of the cute non-QM outfits were like, nope, stop. We're going over here. There's no way. But are you seeing that come back now, or is it still a little bit slow trickling in some of that other option type of financing?
It's back. However, it is not pre-COVID numbers. You're going to be probably, like, you'll see people advertise like at 5.2, and it needs to be a very specific borrower for that. You're probably going to end up in either a 30-year fixed at anywhere from 6 to 7%, maybe a little bit north of 7, depending on your experience. Because non-QM stuff, you're not going to look at your tax returns and stuff like that. They're going to look at your
Yeah, they're looking
experience
at the cash flow of the property.
and the debt service coverage ratio. And for those who don't know who that is, it's, how much is your property renting for? How much is your mortgage, PITI, what's the ratio? And usually they want at least a 1.2%. Those who do less than that, do like a 1%, usually their rates are higher, because there's really no lender currently that, there's probably one out there that's going to see this and say, well, I do it. But they usually they originate 30-year paper and then they sell that off. So there's not a lot of lenders that will service a paper for 30 years. They just usually sell that off.
Oh, yeah, they want to get rid of it.
Right.
So basically, just to sum up, so hard money is lending to investors only, not on primary residence. It is, for the most part, usually a short-term vehicle. You said your average is about 4 months for someone that's going to buy and hold or buy and flip. There is a way to do pretty much no cost out of pocket.
Yeah.
If you got something that's got the after repair, ARV after repair value that merits a less than 70% loan, including your closing costs and your cost to repair. Like that is, that's like phenomenal. Like I think it's the best product ever. And then you just, your $5,000 in closing costs or whatever, and your interest carry for a few months. As long as the property, the value and the net profit is there, like who cares? Like you said, it's leverage.
Right. And it's a way to increase volume. It's a way of doing business. And one of the unique things about jet lending is that we actually will do a full analysis of the market for you prior to you ordering any appraisal, because the appraisal is a third-party expense, so it's something you have to order before you close. So before you order appraisal, we'll say, listen, we've done about 3,000 loans. We've just comped the market. This is what your projections are. This is where you're trending. This is what we would see on average the appraiser coming back at. This is what your numbers would be. If it happened this way, would you want us to order appraisal? So and that happens within 24 hours. So before you spend any money, we tell you an honest opinion of, hey, this is what we see in this market. Doesn't mean we're right or wrong, but this is what we've recently seen. Would you like to proceed? And then just because, let's say the client thinks it's 200,000 in ARV, and let's say it really comes in at 170, we'll still loan you, but it's going to be at the 170. So there's a misconception of that if the deal is speculative, we can still lend to it. Some people are like, oh, the hard money one won't lend to it. No, we're going to lend to it at these numbers, but then we're also going to preface, are you sure you want to take that risk? You're coming out of pocket 40 grand for this. You can't find something better than this.
Yeah.
So, we'll back you up on your numbers, but we will not stop you from, investing in what you want.
So do y'all have special appraisers that do just this? It's not like a full-blown appraisal like one for Fannie Freddie, but because appraisals for us are taking like 3 weeks. Like, who are y'all getting appraisals from?
We have a list of appraisers that are seasoned in after repaired value appraisals.
Okay.
Before the rates dropped a ton, we were getting appraisals back in a day or two. For us, appraisal is going to take probably around 5 to 6 days now.
Yeah, appraisals aren't the appraisal reports that we're required to have are super granular and super like lots of addendums and all that. Y'all's are probably a lot more simple.
Ours is very simple. It's a comparable of the market. You know, if there is rent comps, we just tag that on there. They give us a scope of how they're projecting what the repairs would be. They give us the number, then we analyze it. It's not the same thing as your conventional Freddie Fannie stuff because we don't. This is considered a commercial investment loan, so we don't fall under those types of guidelines.
Got it. So, really the timeline right now, probably by the time you get the appraisal done and you do those numbers and you got to get the title search and all that, I mean, it's probably a 2.5 week process, I would think.
For us,
like. Yeah.
Title's taking about on average 5 days to close, unless there's airship issues or something like that. I'm still closing within 10 days.
Okay, cool. Now, I've seen some investors that when they put the contract in, they'll put it as cash, but then they'll turn around and do hard money.
Don't do that to yourself. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, no, I know. I don't agree with it because it's misleading.
And it confuses title because they draw up all their insurance and everything for a cash sale. And then what happens is let's say you use Jet, hopefully, but if you don't, any lender, whether it's private or not, that lender keeps sending title something, says, hey, let's communicate about 123 Smith Street. And the title company's like, there's no lender on Smith Street. And so there's no communication going on. They clear it at their plant for cash. They find out now there is a lender. Well, now they have to redo everything. And it doesn't take as much time as the first time, but you really slows your title company.
Yeah. And it's just not good business. It's not the right, I mean, it's not what is happening, right? So it's misleading for everybody.
Right. And then what I always told my investors to do is, if you get stuck with the seller that's saying, well, no, I had another person try to buy it and the lender backed out. One, know that lenders don't back out. That means that something happened and then the other person said that the lender backs out. Well, and then two, put that there's third-party financing. Have them call your lender. Have them call us. Say, yeah, we know Jimmy. When are we closing? And then the third advice I'd give you for your contract is, in special provisions, if you're using a TREC contract, say something into the regard of, subject property is to close September 2nd, 2020, or 3 days from clear to close from title and appraisal report in. So if you have a seller trying to back out saying they're out of contract and title really hasn't cleared, say, no, the contract automatically extends your contract. So for you agents out there that are frantically trying to make addendums all the time, this will be something that will help you extend your contract automatically.
And they just put that in special provisions?
Put it in special provisions. We're all agents here too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, interesting. Awesome. So of the applications that you get, I mean, as a percentage, if you could even guess, I'm putting you on the spot, but of the inquiries that y'all get, what percent do you say really are good deals that actually close? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff out there. People are just turning their wheels, but.
Let's say we have, other than the ones that are just kicking tires and saying, well, what if this, what if this? If someone's actually put a property in that we've actually analyzed, we're going to be closing about, I'd say, I think last month's number was 56%.
Yeah, that's a great close ratio. I mean, you can pretty much know, I mean, what are some of the, and then Janie, I'll get to your question in one sec. What would you say when you have an intro call with someone like I do, I mean, I'm screening them and I'm filtering it. And if they don't meet certain criteria right off the bat, I'm like, nope, not going to go anywhere. Mm. Like, what are your main key components? Just if you had to ask 3 or 4 questions that you can have a gut feeling of whether it's a valid deal to keep going on or not.
One, have you seen the property? That's the first time. If somebody hasn't seen it and and they've been getting like 20 wholesale emails a day, it's like, hey, well, what about this property? What about this property? I want to see that an investor is actually taking time to invest their time into analyzing their potential wealth building vehicle, which is the property. So have you been to the property? If you haven't yet, it's okay. Okay, the next question would be, okay, how much liquid reserves do you have? Because that's the defining point if I can do the
That's
loan
number
or
one.
not.
Yeah.
And then, you know, C would be, have you rehab properties in the past? And if not, have you had an idea of who's going to be rehabbing the property? So I'm kind of prefacing, okay, we are moving forward. The difference on what I have to do is to be close so quickly is if I see like a problem or an error, I have to try to come up with solutions for the borrower there because I'm not so restricted. I can be a little more tailored, so I can say, all right, Bill, you know, I can see that you have this money, you haven't been to the property yet, but you're really thinking about putting this under contract. Well, here's a pre-approval letter because I can see that you know you have the projected cash. Do that. I know that you don't have repairs done left, so let me set you up with a different type of contractor. Tell me if that person works out for you. So we have to be active problem solvers. So I don't have so many restrictions. All I'm going to make sure is, do you have the capital if you wanted to invest in this property? And then give me the information. Let me tell you your projections to see if this makes sense for you.
Do you have, when people are rehabbing the property, if they're not using like Fast Track or someone that I know y'all are familiar with, if they're just like, oh yeah, I'm, you know, in the old days I did, you know, I'm going to do it myself.
Mhm.
Do y'all shy away from that kind of stuff? Like you want a bona fide contractor working on this, right?
Well, we will let people work on their own stuff except for 4 major items and then a couple remainders. Well and septic, roof, foundation, and HVAC need licensed personnel because they come with warranties and certificates. The foundation also has to come with a map of the piers and a warranty that's transferable to the buyer. If you're doing major electric and major plumbing, we will make sure that you have a licensed plumber and electrician there. If you're changing out plugs
and sheetrock or whatever, like that's easy.
Yeah. So what, and the thing is, what leverage your lender has is that since you're doing the work first and say, well, I spent 10 grand, I want return back. And we go in there like, this is awful. Like, this is bad. No, you need to redo this. So it doesn't behoove you to, this should not be your training project. If you have not done this type of work in the past, investment real estate is not the time to learn. Learn maybe over time, but do not practice your skills on your investment properties. Not only does doing it yourself increase days on market because it takes you longer, but B, the work is less and it will increase days on market. That's why we have a special no draw loan with Fast Track. Is Fast Track the cheapest? No. Are they the most expensive?
So for investment properties, they're the best.
Yeah, but they're going to get it done really, really fast. So that's why we make deals with those kind of companies because they're well respected. And if you're like, well, I'm not paying that fee, think of the money you're spending on days on market and holding costs, getting the job done quicker. And that would be my argument, but we will let people use other contractors or themselves.
So I want to go back really quick. We had a question about the verbiage on the special provisions to alleviate that hard date. Like, let's say it's okay, we're going to close on September 2nd. What would you put in special provisions
I would
extend that?
So let's say, and I'm very direct, I'm very precise. And so I'll actually put so if it's 43 Maple Way, say 43 Maple Way, Cypress, Texas, 77, whatever, okay, is to close on 9/2/2020 or the legal verb, the word or, and I can't give you legal advice, but 3 days from clear to close and appraisal report in. So not or. So 3 days from clear to close and appraisal report in. So let's say we're supposed to get a closing today on that property, and title emails us a clear to close. And the seller says, well, if you're not closing today, we're backing out. So we just got clear to close. And according to page 2 on our truck contract, we have 3 days from clear to close from title. You've signed this. And that's why my borrowers put that on there, because it gives us some berth. Because every investor has seen where somebody's offered them more money and all of a sudden the seller can't, the title company can't find them and all this kind of stuff. And that allows you a little more berth.
So just as a disclaimer for all of us, anyone who's a realtor that's watching this, check with your legal, check with your, check with HAR legal or your broker legal, but that's what you guys usually do.
Mhm.
Well, very good. Well, I wanted to just wrap it up, but that was a great question. If there's any other questions, please type them in the comments, or Michelle, do we have any questions on Facebook?
No.
So Alex, the best way to reach you, because we're going to put, when we make the video out of this, we're going to put your contact info, but what's the best way to reach you?
If you need to reach me directly, just email alex@jetlending.com. But if you want any kind of advice or consulting or how to get your loans done, you can do it a couple different ways. You can email info@jetlending.com. You can give us a call at 281-872-7800. You can direct message any of our social media pages. We have live web chat on our website, which is www.jetlending.com. We've taken every step for you to have full access to us and do everything online if you need to.
That's great. That's amazing. Awesome. Well, I know I learned some things. I knew what I thought quite a bit, but I learned a lot of really good new things today. Just some high over level bullet points. Thank you so much. Is there anything just that you want to tell anyone watching just to watch out for, or some of the biggest things that you see that get people caught up, other than the reserves, of course, but anything anyone needs to know?
A couple things. Get your pre-approval letter because it lasts 6 months. So if you now have a tiger by the tail, so you can lock a contract up. It's easier to lock something up, either with A, if you're using an agent, or B, if you're doing it yourself. And even if you don't have a deal, give us a call and talk to us so we can help you with your business plan. Real estate investing, all it is math. And if you understand the math, you can make money. Let us help you understand it. And if you guys are watching this group, you're probably already pretty smart because you found them. So hopefully you can find us.
Awesome. Yeah, jetlending.com. I'm all for that live chat. That's fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Alex. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on today, and I look forward to sending you more deals. We get lots of investor calls, so I love to send people your way. You always take care of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. You guys have a great day, okay?
Yeah, you got it, Alex. Talk to you soon. Legacy Mutual Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity lender. The opinions expressed here do not reflect those of Legacy Mutual Mortgage.